The alternative is you wake up and you curate, purposefully, carefully, calculatedly plan, who do I want to be? I don't want to be who I was, who do I want to be today? I fully believe, and I strongly recommend everybody that listens to this at least play the game. Pretend it's just a game, but that life is happening for you. Life is serving the person that you get to become.
Welcome back to Ignition Point. I'm Debbie Hart.
And I'm Sean Finnegan.
And today we have Rudi Riekstins. He is a unique business consultant, and he also has an incredible podcast, the Empowered Life podcast, that Sean and I got to be a guest on a little while ago, which is how we met. But tell us more about what the unique kind of business consulting that you do. You were just sharing that with us. It was so fascinating.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. I love both of you.
And by the way, he was such a good interviewer.
Oh my goodness.
That I told him the pressure's on right now because we're interviewing him, but we've done a lot of podcasts together too. And afterwards we're like, wow. I don't know if you, like, it was so, the questions were so good and precise and so directed.
I appreciate the compliment. You see, I think it's easy to interview you guys because you have a wealth of knowledge.
There you go.
So thank you for making me look good. I appreciate you.
That's how good he is. He already redirected.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, he's good.
What I do is I really go into organizations. It's where I spend the bulk of my time. My time is working in companies, not because my content specifically relates to companies. It's where I find the bulk of the people. You know, I was sharing with you a moment ago, I can go into a 30,000 person company, do one training and impact 30,000 people. They take it home and share it with their wives. And in a single day, we've impacted up to 90,000 people, whether it's husbands, wives, children, and so on. And so, you know, my mission is really to create the greatest impact in the shortest amount of time possible. The work that I bring into companies is to support people in understanding who they are, why they are where they are, and what the value and the meaning is in their life. And in that process, we reduce stress, fear, and anxiety. Coming out of COVID, the statistics are that 75% of the human population is suffering chronic stress more than 75% of the time. Now, if you really think about what that means, it means every waking minute of 75% of the population's day, they're in a heightened state of chronic stress. Not mild stress, heightened chronic stress, which means they've lost the ability to be logical, they've lost reason, inspiration, intuition. They've also lost the most powerful tool, and that's creativity. You know, and we are creative beings. We were created to create, and we lose the ability to create. And if you think about this just in any of your businesses, every single time you look at your company, I want you to think about 75% of them are living in that statistic of chronic stress. They could be worrying about financial, could be personal problems at home, it could be a relationship maybe with a sibling or a family member, it could be worried about their health, their well-being, somebody else's health or well-being, and that is controlling.
It's easy for someone to say, hey, leave all that at the door, but much harder than in reality to leave it at the door when you're coming to the office.
Most companies, you know, for almost 100 years have expected that we would just leave our problems at the door. We do a job, here's what I'm paying you for, create your function. But we're human beings, and when we show up at work, we don't leave our problems at home. They come with us to work.
No, we're not robots.
Yeah, and what my work is really unfolding is that people are losing the ability to do their job or to function in their life because they're living in a heightened state of chronic stress. And so if you just think about, if I asked you a logical question and I was expecting a logical answer, and you fall into the 75% of people living in chronic stress, you're not going to be able to answer that, or at least articulate a response that we're going to be able to do anything with. If I come to you and I say, man, I have a problem, can you fix it for me? Even if you're qualified to fix the problem, you won't find the solution because you're in that chronic state of stress. And so I teach individuals inside of companies to reduce their stress, to identify that they are not stressed, they're not the emotion. Emotion is an indicator. They can create separation between themselves and the emotion, and all of a sudden they tap into their brilliance, their ingenuity, their genius that is them. It flows to them and through them. And when we do this, we don't touch product, but when we touch the people, companies just double, triple, like 10x, and it's profound growth. And it's always because the genius is already in your business. It's just, is the genius coming through your business, or is it in that point where it's hitting these roadblocks? And when people all of a sudden wake up and they don't feel stressed and they're tapped into their genius and they feel passion and purpose for coming to work and who they work with, that's when all of a sudden people start to show up at work very differently and your business moves in a completely different direction. And so I love to remind people of the power, the flow, and the force that is them if they're allowing themselves to be able to do it.
I like how you said earlier too, you're not going in and talking about the product. or the service more, or trying to fix that side. It's you have a people issue within the business is what you focus on.
Yeah, I mean, I can go in and look at business and be able to give some ideas or to support somebody in a specific problem. But I love to remind people, the people that are already there, they already have the solution. You already have the solution. It's just, are you able to access that information? And, you know, I bring in a tremendous amount of neuroscience. I dummy it down so it's really simple and really easy. But more than anything, if I can articulate to a 7 or an 8-year-old child how to take control of their emotional state, and they can take it and apply it into their lives and not be caught into the trappings of emotions, then I'm doing my job. And if we can bring that into a business, I mean, it just changes the environment of how people get to show up, and it is absolutely beautiful to see.
So how did you get into this? Where did that all start?
You know, I had said a moment ago that everything is this beautifully divine, orchestrated moment, and my life has been one of those examples. I grew up as a boy who didn't have a lot of money. I was on the other side of the railway track, so to speak. I went to a very private, very wealthy school. We had a scholarship to go, and everybody else was being given cars and boats and houses for their 16th, 17th, and 18th birthdays. And here I was working every single night and every weekend so that I had pocket money so I could buy shoes, so I could look like I fit in. So everywhere I was reminded I wasn't good enough and I wasn't worthy. Added to that, at 6 years old, my first day of school, a teacher said to me, "Hey, you're stupid, sit on the stupid chair." And she made me actually sit on a chair very similar to one of these. And she called it the dunce's chair. And I wasn't the only kid, so I don't want to play like it was poor me. But in that moment, I identified as, wow, an authority figure just named me stupid. So I showed up as a stupid kid. And then eventually I, left school, started going into business. And at 26 years old, I was self-made. I had 3 companies. I was doing very well. I was sitting in a brand new 2-story loft apartment. I bought it and furnished it in 3 days. I was sitting there proud of myself, thinking like, look at all I've done. And that's when I started crying and realized, man, I'm still a dunce sitting on the dunce's chair. I still don't feel good enough, still don't feel worthy.
All that starts
all of it
back.
came back.
Yeah, it comes back.
And so I went on a journey of just trying to figure out, like, how do I create value and meaning in who I am? And as I put the pieces back together of who I am, I became uniquely qualified to do it. So I want to give you an example. And more than this, I want everyone that's listening to listen to anything that they've ever gone through, any trial, every tribulation, any suffering, any pain, any struggle. That's not happening because of you. It's happening to serve the person you get to become. I was sexually assaulted at 6 years old by an older female cousin. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. The experience was terrible, and I had a lot of shame, a lot of guilt. I didn't understand why she did what she did. And now today, more than 60% of the people that I work with in private conversations with me share that they've been either sexually assaulted, raped, or abused, or beaten. And I'm so qualified to respond, to be able to serve and support them and help them. And it's in those moments where I'm like, man, what got me here was my qualification to do the work that I get to do. And that is in everything, in life and in business, whether it was losing a company, building a business, helping a person, being cheated on or cheating, or whatever the things we go through, all of it prepared me to be the man that I am today.
Say that line again at the beginning about how it happens for you.
I fully believe, and I strongly recommend everybody that listens to this at least play the game. Pretend it's just a game, because some people need a gap to get there. But that life is happening for you. Life is serving the person that you get to become. Everything that happens to you, I was on a call with somebody a little earlier, and they lost a tremendous amount of money, really bad decision inside of the business. And the first thing they said was like, how can this happen to me? And I'm like, well, what power do you have in why did this happen to me? Just pretend for a second you wanted this to happen. You chose this. Ask the question, why would I choose this? So they said, okay, why would I choose this? Now, they're not playing the game. They're not having fun, but they asked the question, why would I choose this? And I'm like, yeah, why would you choose it? What are you learning right now? What did you gain? What's the value? And then we spent another 15 minutes listing off all the gain, all the value of what this opportunity brought. And I'm like, could you have got that anywhere else? No. Will you ever make it again, this mistake again? No. Could you teach this now? Yes. How much could this make you in the future? And now all of a sudden we're having a very productive conversation. I want to qualify that for a second. The human brain is so complex and yet it's so simple. We process anywhere from 10 million bits of data every single second, sight, sound, smell. 10 million bits of data. And that information is being narrowed down to only 50 that we are aware of in any moment, consciously, logically, presently aware of. 50 bits of data based on what were we thinking or feeling last. So if you're in oh man, that's so unfair, this election or the forest fires or the famine or the feast, whatever it is we're worried about, if we're focusing on something external that's causing an internal dialogue that is a negative emotion in us, our brain is now being chemically instructed to only look for evidence to reinforce we should stay there. So if we wake up and feel anxious, nervous, worried, and we focus on anxious nervousness, our brain's going to find us 10 million bits of data, narrow it down to 50 and say, yeah, you should really stay there, Debbie. Oh, you should stay there, Sean. Rudi, oh yeah, you should definitely stay there. Then it's going to go into your memory banks and find any time in your life that you've ever felt similarly, and it's going to remind you, except it's happening unconsciously. But for every thought you have, which is anywhere from 30,000 to 50,000 thoughts a day, you two are high performers. So your thoughts are running at around about 75 to 85,000 thoughts a day. And every thought,
100,000.
Every thought produces an emotion. Every thought produces an emotion. Thoughts and emotions drive behavior. And they're happening unconsciously. 95% of them are in the back of your mind. You don't even know about them. And they're based on that formula. So you wake up and you're just so upset. You're so anxious. You're so nervous. You're so resentful. And you don't know why. But it's because you triggered that emotion, and so your brain went to work to look for it. But now the reverse is true. If you turn around and you say, okay, I'm not a victim, I'm going to play this game. Let's do Rudi's game for a second. Why would I choose this? And it could be anything. It could be a failing marriage. It could be a divorce. It could be a business deal, anything. And you turn around and you say, if I chose this, what could I do with this? When you're like, well, actually, I could fix this marriage. I could change this business decision. And now you start looking at the 10 million bits of data. The brain goes to work to bring you evidence. It goes to find stories of any time you've been successful. It dumps the chemicals into your body, and it completely alters how you show up. Now, that's with the individual. Now, imagine we did that with 3,000 people in your business.
Wow.
That's brilliant.
Oh, yeah, that exponential growth and that impact, that's beautiful.
It's amazing to think that many thoughts are just flowing through your head as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And how to focus
All the
and how to
things you've gotta
identify
work
the
on.
ones that are maybe keeping you from progressing.
Absolutely. There's the magic, yeah.
Yeah, I remember years ago in college learning about this. I read about this, something that happened at IBM, and someone at IBM made a mistake where it cost the company $1 million. And he got called to the manager's office, and he thinks this is over, I'm out. And so he sits down, and the manager said, hey, what'd you learn from the experience? And he went through it, talked about the problem. And he said, okay. And he stood up and he said, hey, I thought I was actually going to be fired here today. And the guy said, no, I just spent $1 million on your education. Why would I fire you? Because of what you learned from the experience, right? Which is like how much we use that to help it to happen for us. It didn't happen to us, and how do we become a better person on the other side of that? I think that's so brilliant.
Absolutely. You know, I don't believe that life is about you. And I want you to think about that, your life. When you lie in bed tonight, you think about everything you've done, everything you've achieved, everything you want to achieve, all of your desires and aspirations. And then at the end of that, I want you to hear my voice. It's not about you. It has nothing to do with you. It has that when you've achieved what you've come here to do, you've succeeded through all of what you've been dealt, and you've come out victorious on the other end, that you get to do something with it because you've achieved a new level of understanding. And when you take that understanding, your job is to teach it. And so on this platform, you're learning, you're gaining, you have value, you turn around, you teach it, people listen, learn, they gain value, and in their gaining value, it's added value to you having had the experience. And I think that's the meaning of life. In every single moment, we get to draw from what has been our life and what has been our experience, and the value is to stay present in the teaching. Have an experience, who can gain from what I've just done? Who has value, or could learn value from something I've just experienced? And I think that's what's so beautiful about this work.
Let's also talk about, you have anything else to add before we? Okay. So let's talk about the 20-minute idea, because we chatted about this before. A lot of people I've seen was like the first hour, the first 2 hours, the first 3 hours. You're the first time I've heard the first 20 minutes are so important to start your day, and why is that?
So people need to understand the human brain, and they also need to understand the human body, and they need to understand the universe. And I want to explain this in a very simplistic form. Every single thing in the world is comprised of one thing, and that is a vibrational frequency, and we call them atoms. So there's an electron, a neutron, and a proton, and they just vibrate around each other, and the
We
number...
love all this stuff,
Yes.
right? We've had long conversations about it. Yep.
The number of atoms that are vibrating in any one place and at what frequency, how fast, is what determines what they are, right? And so if we can understand that, and we can understand that thoughts themselves, just thoughts, have the power to manipulate physical structure, that if you can think a thought and you can manipulate something, if I think on the shelf, I'm going to manipulate the chemical makeup of that. And if we were to study you, your body, the floor, the walls with the highest EKG equipment on the planet, and we actually measured it, we could measure by just pure focused thought that we literally alter the way that it's vibrating. So if we give focus to the shelf behind us, the shelf actually begins to vibrate faster or slower. Now that's what the latest data tells us. And that is really fascinating, because what we're saying is it's not actually physical, it's energy. And if I think about it, I alter the energy. Now let's translate that into your life. I teach a process called priming. It's Rudi Riekstins priming. But please know, whether you know my priming technique or not, you're priming anyway. Every single person that wakes up every single day are priming themselves to be the person they were yesterday. You wake up and you do the same thing today that you did yesterday, that you did the day before. You think the same thoughts, you feel the same emotions, you take the same actions. The formula to life is thoughts produce feelings, thoughts and feelings drive behavior. And so if you want to change something, you don't do behavior, you change how you think about it, or you change how you feel about it. I want you to change how you feel. And if you change how you feel, you're going to dramatically alter your life in a very short amount of time. So let me explain. In the very first 20 minutes of the day, the human brain is the most susceptible to influence. So you can manipulate, change, biohack your brain in the first 20 minutes of the day easier than you can at any other time in your day. When you woke up this morning, and don't answer, but did you grab your cell phone? Did you check Instagram? Did you go on to Twitter, X? Did you look at social media, your bank account, read a work email?
I know you said don't answer, but I've already answered yes to a lot of those. You?
Definitely.
Yeah?
So now think about this. The minute you do that, in the first 20 minutes of the day, just seamlessly, aimlessly staring and just swiping, you've actually opened your brain up to stimulation that you can't control. And all of this information is coming into your brain, and your brain is now firing that program of how was I before, how do I want to feel today, and who am I going to be? Every day when you wake up, your brain doesn't know who you are. It has to remember who you are. So it looks around you like side table, desk, chairs, coffee, spouse, dog, coffee cup, toilet, and it goes, oh, yeah, that's who I am. And then the emotions start to flood. So you have the thought, you have the chemical. The thought produces a chemical, the chemical goes into the body, that exchange is called emotion. So now you're starting to feel the way you felt yesterday. You see your bank account, or the lack of the bank account, or the girlfriend, or the boyfriend, or the husband, or the wife, or the whatever, and all of a sudden, you're like, that's how I felt yesterday. And in the first 20 minutes, the brain says, got it, that's how we want to be today. So it sets a dominant state. Wow. Anything that happens in your day is now going to be benchmarked to that emotion that you experienced in the first 20 minutes. So now think about this. Somebody woke up and felt depressed and anxious and nervous and resentful and frustrated. They win a lottery, $10,000 or $100,000 or $1 million. They're going to have a moment of high because they just won $1 million, right? They're like, oh my gosh, woo! And then immediately the brain's going to pull them back to the emotion of where they were, and the brain's going to say, well, now you're going to pay 50% of that in taxes, or your family's going to come out of the woodworks, everyone's going to be stealing from you, and their emotional state's going to be, I'm going to lose everything, and they'll lose the money. The alternative is you wake up and you curate, purposefully, carefully, calculatedly plan, who do I want to be? I don't want to be who I was. Who do I want to be today? How do I want to feel today? Where am I going tomorrow? So I flew out to see you guys. I'm staying in a hotel, woke up this morning, wake up, I'm not in my own bed, I'm not in my own house, my wife's not next to me, and I'm like, where am I? What am I doing? Oh yeah, I'm in Utah. Okay. First thing I do is get up, I go over to my couch, and then I think about, how do I want to feel today? And I curate through a very specific process of releasing any emotions that I might have of my past. And then I connect to what do I want today? And so I've had a number of interviews today, and I went to each one and I thought, how do I want to feel at the end of this one? And I create that feeling and I send it ahead. Then I create the feeling of the next one, I send it ahead. Then I've got a phone call, I create the feeling of that, and then I send it ahead. And I go and I do this for my entire day. Then I go somewhere in my mind, vacation, I go to my future potential. I've got a dream of being on stage at 103 years old in front of 85,000 people, and I want to do that 40 weeks a year, 3 days a week, so I've got a busy life I'm planning. And so to be 103 years old on stage in front of 85,000 people for 3 straight days, right, 10, 12 hours a day, I'm like, that's going to take a lot of energy. So I go into my mind and I create the feeling of
what would down again. So what's the very first thing you do? First, second, and third, would you say?
Of the morning routine?
Yes.
So the first thing you want to do is go and sit down on a chair, and you want to take a really deep breath in.
I want to get this down. I'm going to try it tomorrow. Are you going to try it tomorrow?
Okay, so I'm going to give you a whole bunch of steps. Okay, and it's not complicated, but you need to understand the order. So your brain is a computer, and we want your brain to be firing on all cylinders. So the first thing you're going to do when you wake up is drink 8 ounces of water. At least 8 to 12 ounces of water. Don't touch your phone.
Yeah.
I will punch you in the face through the phone.
Yes.
Lovingly.
Picture Rudi punching you in the face if you pick up your phone.
Lovingly, like a Care Bear.
Yeah.
So you have to hydrate because your brain dehydrates, and your brain's mostly water. So when you wake up, you want your brain to turn on. So we have to drink water. So you don't put the water there the morning before. The morning of. You put it there the night before. You grab your water, now you leave. I don't want you to stay in bed. I don't want you to sit up in your bed. I want you to go somewhere else. So I go to my office. I walk to the other end of my house. I'm drinking my water on the way there. So by the time I sit down, I've already hydrated at least 8 to 16 ounces of water. I have Pedialytes or electrolytes or something in my water, so I'm being hydrated. The next thing you need to do is put oxygen into the blood so oxygen can enter the brain. So you want to take deep breaths in. So this is 3 to 5 really deep breaths in, all 3 parts of your diaphragm. If you want to know if you're breathing properly, you're going to put your hands on the outside of your ribs, and if you take a breath and your hands are not doing that, you're not breathing. So you want to breathe into the top of the chest, around the rib cage, and then into the stomach. And then I release it, and I make a sound like just to release that stress. Now, from the bathroom or from the bedroom bathroom to the office where I'm going to be sitting, my brain's already turning on. Oh, I had an irate client yesterday that was dealing with something and I've got anxiety about it, or I've got a
bunch of thoughts starts creeping in.
You're already now turning the program on. So when I sit there, I release the thoughts, the emotion, and all I do is I pretend I have control, which we do today. Science tells us that I have control over the emotion. I breathe in white light into the top of my head as if it's filling a glass. I breathe out black light out of my chest. So the anxiety that's building up, I just breathe it out of my heart so the black leaves and the white comes in. And that exchange takes me 1 minute, 2 minutes. If I'm in the middle of something massive, it could be 45 minutes. But I do not stop until I feel calm. When you get to that calm centered point, that is you in your most powerful form. That's you connected to God. That is you expressing the highest potential of you. Outside influence is turned off and it's just you. In that moment, I want you to pay attention to how do you feel, because you're going to use that for the rest of the day. Then you forecast a dream or a goal. Now stick with me here for a second. I use the word fantasy. I want you to fantasize the same way you would have a sexual fantasy. If you had a sexual fantasy, you would close your eyes, you would imagine something, and your body would alter itself. Blood would pump, your heart would rate, your palms would get sweaty. You're literally experiencing something, but nothing is happening around you externally, but your body's changed. But what if in the first 20 minutes of the day, you woke up and you imagined that meeting you're going to today, and you crush it, and you get exactly the end result of what you want, and everybody's happy, and everybody's high-fiving, and at the end you feel grateful, and you are filled with gratitude and joy and awe for how it came together, and you just hold that feeling. Your body will alter itself the same way it would in a sexual fantasy, except it's not the same things that are altering, but your body's changing. Your thoughts literally change your physiological state. And now you are vibrating the same way I referenced the shelf a moment ago. You are vibrating at the end result of that meeting going the way you want. I don't care what you have to say now, what you have to do, where you have to go. You've already achieved it. Your body doesn't know the difference. It has a roadmap to what you want. So now when you stand up and you walk out, you are the end results of the success that you want. So whatever that is for your life. Now, I teach it very specifically in how to segment that into your day and then into your month, year, and then what you want for your life. And this can take you 30, 40 seconds each one. If I'm writing a book, I will then only focus an entire morning session on just the end result of the book, of people reading, people crying. I went to an event 2 weeks ago, and there were some massive speakers in the room, like people that have been doing this for 20, 30 years longer than me. And I was a little intimidated. I had that thought of like, oh my gosh, like I'm going up against some big names and I'm the closing day speaker, which is a massive compliment, but I'm going after all the powerhouses. I'm like, man, what am I gonna say? And so I went into my mind and I created the word transformation. I wanted everyone in that room to have a transformational experience. I created my mind. Then I imagined people sending me letters using the word transformation. I created people crying and hugging me, and then me crying and just having this moment. And then I sent that to that event every single morning for 2 weeks, sent it. At the end of the event, I can't tell you, 60, 70 Instagram stories of people posting, And every time they tagged me, the word transformation was in every single one of them. This was transformational, I'm transformed. They used that word repetitively. I got so many letters that were in my inbox. People wrote me letters while they were sitting in the room. I got 52 emails from people sitting listening to me in that hour session. And this is while they're engaged. And the reason I share this with you is not to talk about what I did. It was to talk about the experience that they had and where was that experience created. It wasn't created on stage. It was created in my office, on my couch, and I created it first and then sent it forward. So when I walked on stage, I didn't even have a script. I didn't need one because I already knew what the end result would be. Now imagine when you do that in your business. Imagine you teach 3,000 people or 30,000 people to do that in a company. And there's the value in that.
Especially in sales. You know, you have a bad sales experience, negative, and all of a sudden that spirals. And then your next sale is also a bad experience because you can't reset and have that intention going into the next.
You've touched on something so powerful, and I know we don't have the time to dive into it, but I'm going to give it to you in a snapshot version.
We should do a full day podcast next time.
Heck yeah,
right?
I'm up for it.
8 hours of this.
You have 3 bodies. You have your mental body, which is where your thoughts are. Then you have your physical body, which we can touch and feel. But you have an energetic body, and your energetic body extends 15 feet past you in all directions. And if you've ever walked into a room and you've met someone, they look good, sound good, damn it, they smell good, but you don't like them, something just says to you, get away from this person. You're actually touching their energy, and their energy is touching yours, and it's conveying information. I use this every time I'm on stage. I say, ladies, help the gentleman prove that this is real. Ladies, have you ever gone to a bar, girls' night, don't want to hit on anyone, don't want to be hit on, you just want to hang out with your friends, and you go to a bar. And then all of a sudden you get that feeling like there's a creepy guy in the bar and you just want to leave. You haven't seen him, he hasn't spoken to you, but you can feel it. Raise your hand if you've ever had that experience, and every single hand in the room will go up, and women are like, heck yeah, that's happened so often. Have you ever experienced that?
Not in a bar, but yes.
But you've experienced that, right? Where you can feel it?
That. Oh yeah.
You can feel it.
So what that is you are actually picking up somebody else's intent, what they are thinking about what they want to do to you, and you're feeling it, and it feels yucky to you, and you're like, I got to get out of here. Now, the reason I share that is I'll go into a company and train an entire sales team to curate their energy so that when a customer walks into their energy, all of a sudden they're open to buy and they become receptive, because what they've done is they've made their thoughts, their feelings, and then obviously the energy that's out. So the 3 bodies align to the end result of serving the customer, and the customers open their wallets and they start to buy because you've taken away that incongruence. When we don't trust someone, we process it as it's about us. We don't know it's about a bad sale, about something that happened before, there's a fight, there's whatever's going on in their life. We think, oh, they don't like us or they don't trust us. And that's what costs the majority of people in sales money.
Yeah, we do a lot of networking and engagement events. We have one this Saturday. Yeah. And what I talk about is how do you show up in the room, right? What's your intention coming in? Because a lot of people will come into the room and they haven't thought about their thoughts and their feelings, and they go to the corner because they're dreading the experience versus what they've actually portrayed out there. And something I've been working on is like you walk through those doors, you're completely transformed. You go right to the center. You have that energy and that 15 feet that you talk about, the influence. People can feel you walk into the room. And
you're actually at that moment going to magnetize all opportunities and experiences to match the way that you're feeling, or you're going to be repelling them if you're the guy in the corner. So I love that you bring that into business. It's so important.
Same thing. I use the analogy of the coffee bean and the egg. So especially women, they come into these networking events and they're like, oh, there's only 3 women, or there's only 5 women, there's 80 guys, and they get hard. Like an egg in water, you put an egg in water and it gets hard, hot water, right? And they allow the environment to harden them. Instead of being a coffee bean, you put a coffee bean in water and it makes the water better. It brings the joy and the aroma and the flavor where it is. And so I do the same thing. I invite the women or whoever it is to make the environment better. Bring your joy, bring your light.
Yeah, years ago, I'm a Jack Nicklaus, the golfer. I'm a huge disciple. Watched his VHS tape that ages me, so you know. I watched it over and over and over again. And one of the things he said is your mindset, if you come into it, he knows as he's walking around his competitors, if any competitor is complaining about the conditions, the weather, the course, anything, they're no longer his competitors. It's the ones that have this strong, positive mental attitude that are his competitors.
Yep.
They immediately eliminate themselves from the tournament.
They've already projected what they want to do.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Proactive instead of reactive. Like
that was Tiger Woods' arsenal for all the years that he was dominating.
Right. In closing, what's your best advice? What's the best way to engage? Obviously, people watching this, they're going to want to engage with you and learn more. What's the best way to do that?
You know, you could find me on all social media at Rudi Riekstins or at my website, rudireikstins.com. So that's RUDIREKSTINS. It's a long one, rudireikstins.com. And just honestly hit me up. I respond to all my own messages. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to know if there's any way I can serve or support. I have a ton of free resources. I have 2 books on my website I give away for free. I have meditations for free. I have programs people can get in. I want to support people in taking their lives back. I know what it felt like to live for 26 years disempowered. I know what it felt like to know who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to achieve and feel like everyone else had to get me there. Meaning I would walk into a meeting and have that feeling of like, man, I need this meeting to go well. I need them to see me. I need them to value me and appreciate me. And if they don't, this isn't going to happen for me. Man, and that is the most disempowering feeling ever because you give all your value away. Whereas today, I know who I am. I know what I do. I know what I can achieve. And I walk into a room and I get the results of what I'm looking for because I create them. And life is so beautiful when you do that. It's like a meandering river of opportunity, and you just get to take this beautiful, journey down, bring these people that mean something with you along on the journey, and life gets to be fun. And that's just, I want to help as many people create as much fun as possible. So,
well, Rudi jumped in a plane yesterday. He flew out here. So a good 4 or 5 hours in flight to be here. You slept here last night. You value relationships and this education. What was your intention coming into this interaction right now?
My intention is always the same, and it's to touch the person that's ready for the information that I have to receive, that they have to receive, and that is of the divinity that is them. I have yet to meet a person that has ever dreamed big enough, that has ever achieved enough, meaning there is nothing we cannot have, be, do, and achieve. And for everyone that's listening to this, they have a dream or a goal or desire to have something. And you, even having achieved all of what you've achieved, you still have dreams, goals, and desires. I know that because you're here. And if you have this goal or desire, you haven't achieved it yet. And the thing that's going to be the bridge to get you there is your belief in that it's possible, but more than that, your belief that it's possible for you. And I just want to remind anyone through anything that I've shared, man, that you've come here to do something so bold, so profound, so big. Only you can do it. Only you can achieve what you've come here to achieve. And the only difference between whether you get it or whether you don't get it is whether you believe you're worthy of it. And you are so worthy of it. And I just want to say I love you. It sounds crazy, but I really do, because I know what you've gone through to get you.
That's brilliant.
That was so
Thank
beautiful.
You so much,
Yes, thank you for coming.
So much.
If any of you watching today have any doubts that your current CPA is not helping you take 100% advantage of the deductions you deserve and helping you stay compliant with the IRS, then don't hesitate to get involved with TaxHive today. You won't be disappointed.